Khan story, because obviously ULEZ is a very controversial policy. We're within days of it coming into effect, the expansion, which is the particularly controversial bit, of course, expanding this further and further out of London. Lots of stories have been coming out questioning whether some of the science and the data that Sadiq Khan has been relying on in his press, in how he's been relating this to the public, questioning it, and then we find out that perhaps they were trying to silence some of the scientists who didn't quite agree with some of their ideas.
It's interesting. This ULEZ is a classic case of what you might call finding policy-based evidence. So people always want to have evidence-based policy. Here we have this idea of ULEZ. They go to scientists and say, give us some research that shows it's a good idea. And then when some scientists dissent, people from the Mayor's office send some very angry emails saying, you're going to correct this, let's sort it out. I mean, even if you read the original paper that Sadiq Khan used to justify ULEZ, what it actually says is that if we reduce nitrogen levels by a significant amount, then over the next 106 years, we might extend our life expectancy by about 8 days each. Now, that doesn't seem like a very effective policy, and that's the research that Khan has been using. Other research from Imperial showed that actually ULEZ isn't even going to reduce nitrogen levels that much, so probably couldn't even have that effect. So, you know, really, everyone knows why this policy has been put in place. It's because it is to raise money for TfL. But Khan has made it his own kind of personal thing. It has been, in a sense, it's funny because it's been imposed on him from central government, and yet he wants to be the one fronting it. He's written a book called Breathe about the problems of air pollution in London. He's been on this kind of crusade saying that either you're with me or you're on the side of air pollution and diseased lungs and dead children. That's
the interesting point, Fraser. Scarlett, he very much has tried to frame this policy as, if you're a good person, you support ULEZ because you don't want small children to be dying of asthma, and if you're a bad person, then you don't care about those children, and you just want to drive your filthy car around.
I have to say, I'm not sure I agree with Sadiq on the messaging. I do understand. I mean, I think talking about, 100 years or whatever, I mean, there's certainly, and he is one of them, that people who suffer badly from asthma do have real problems in inner London. And I live off the Holloway Road, and I do notice the difference. And actually, I went to Istanbul and started coughing terribly, and somebody said it's the pollution, of course. And I was actually weirdly used to... I'm somebody who had to get rid of my car because of ULEZ. What's interesting about ULEZ is you get very cross about it, and then it just goes away. Because we do have to remember, I mean, I do think they got the messaging wrong, because actually most people are not affected. I mean, that's the truth, is that nobody's going to be talking about it. I do agree that I think that they should... That it should have been done differently. But as Fraser said, this was imposed by central government. This wasn't Sadiq's idea, right? He just took it up.
No, not the latest, as I understand it, not this latest controversial expansion. That was not ordered by central government. The original ULEZ was.
They're always controversial. I mean, for those of us who live in central London and used to drive our cars in central London, it was controversial in central London. I mean, it's just that they're making more of a fuss at the moment. Nobody's talking about Birmingham or Bristol or the other places where actually the government has put in millions for the scrapping.
Well, we are actually talking about that on this channel because, of course, the Labour Party as well rolled back on their proposal, which was in their policy plan, to have sort of ULEZ-style schemes across the country, which, as you know, we have in some areas anyway. But they rolled back on this because there's a problem. And Extinction Rebellion, the co-founder of Extinction Rebellion, he even came out against this.
That says everything that I feel about Extinction Rebellion.
On progressive grounds, though, he said that it's not fair to target people who can least afford to change their cars in.
And that is what a scrappage scheme is about. It's about giving the poorest people with the worst...
Where's the money coming from, though, Scarlett?
Well, it's coming from City Hall. I mean, that actually... And actually, the people who are driving really bad cars, very polluting cars, I mean, they're not making themselves well either. It would be really good if they could get a better car.
But you know what? I think a lot of people watching this are just so sick of Mr. Sadiq Khan knows best.